They called her Dot King, but that name carried a shimmer, bright lights, jazz-filled nights, whispered promises, and danger lurking behind every smile. In the early 1920s, New York City pulsed with energy, money, and ambition. The city was a stage, and Dot walked on it. A model, a dancer, a chorus girl. Someone from nothing trying to become everything. In life, she was Dorothy Keenan, or perhaps Keenan was one of her many adopted names, because record of that vary. She had come from modest roots, but in Manhattan, she learned fast how to shine. Early on, she took to modeling, dancing, mingling with men who wore fine suits and waited for fine girls. By 1923, she lived in a stylish two-room apartment at 144 West 57th Street, a building on the edge of glimmer and grit, half glamour, half grit. They called her the Broadway Butterfly. The name was fitting. She floated between clubs and speakeasies, between admirers who paid in furs and gems, the kind of generosity reserved for those who offered more than mere company. She had admirers, older men, wealthy men, men with status and secrets. Through them, she got rare gifts, jewels, ermine coats, perhaps even more expensive favors. On the night of March 14th, 1923, or early morning March 15th, she returned home from one of her outings. She had walked the line between respectability and vice her whole life. That night, she wore a filmy silk chemise, maybe a soft slip, pale under the gaslight, the city's pulse echoing in her ears. She didn't expect to die. She expected some late-night hush, maybe a call, maybe sleep. But the city had other designs. When her maid and employee named Billy Bradford came to wake her the next morning around 11:30, the door was unlocked. The apartment was dark and silent. Bradford stepped inside, reaching for the bedroom light. She found Dot's body sprawled on the bed. At first, she thought Dot had passed out from drink or exhaustion after all. In those years, party girls did odd things. But when she touched Dot's bare foot, it was ice. Too cold. The window by the bed stood open odd, given how cold the morning was. A soft breeze stirred the curtains. The maid called Dot's mother in a panic, then ran to fetch a policeman. By the time the squad from Bellevue Hospital and the NYPD arrived, Dot King was gone, no longer living. Lying like some tragic ornament, pale, lifeless, beautiful. Draped in a silk chemise, her body laid out as if asleep, but with horror pressed into every line. On her lips and nostrils, dark purple discolorations, abrasions, bruises, signs of restraint. Her arm was twisted behind her back in a cruel hammerlock. The first doctor on scene thought it might be an overdose or a party drug accident. After all, chloroform was often used in the nightlife circles Dot moved in as a drug, an anesthetic, a tool for darkness. A bottle of chloroform lay between her legs. On a table, police found a will. She had written that passage as though she expected something bad could happen. But this wasn't an escape. This was a trap. Another doctor, a city physician working at Harlem Hospital, and later the chief medical examiner, concluded Dot had been suffocated, likely via chloroform, then left for dead. The apartment had been ransacked. Trinkets, jewels, a luxurious ermine coat gone. Something meant to seduce her, or a gift from some compromising admirer, had become the reason for her death. From that moment on, the city's underbelly showed its teeth. New York's tabloids devoured the case. Broadway Butterfly slain, splashed across front pages. Gossip flowed thicker than liquor in speakeasies. Every admirer, every ex-lover, every socialite who'd once opened a door for a smile became a suspect in the public's eye. Police scrambled. The most prominent suspect, a wealthy older man, known only as Mr. Marshall. It was he who had reportedly furnished Dot's apartment. He had paid for her lifestyle, for her jewels, for the silk dresses and high-heeled parties. In the smoky rooms of the Hotel Brevoort and in low-lit jazz clubs, Dot was his companion. On the day she died, she'd had dinner with him and another man. People whispered that Mr. Marshall had controlling ways. Some alleged jealousy. Others murmured darker motives. Maybe blackmail. Maybe something she knew that got her killed. Then there was Albert Guimares, a slick, dangerous man with side deals and schemes. He had been Dot's boyfriend. He was rumored to be a crook, a hustler, someone who tolerated more shadows than the average New Yorker. Dot's own mother pointed at him. She said he had beaten her daughter before. On the night of March 14th, Dot had left one world, entered another. Maybe she tried to walk away from him. Maybe he didn't like that. Maybe that was enough. But investigators found his alibi solid. A woman, an attractive blonde, confirmed his whereabouts that night. The woman's name was Aurelia Fisher. She verified that Guimares had been elsewhere, with her. No charges came. Rooms in the building were searched. Investigators checked past guests, looked into Dot's men, questioned bartenders, doormen, elevator operators. One elevator operator, a nightman named John Thomas, swore up and down he had taken no one upstairs that night. The building had no obvious fire escape, and windows on 57th Street were high. It seemed impossible for a murderer to sneak in and out. Yet whoever did it had. Whoever brought death into that apartment was careful, cunning, cold. As the case cooled, rumors grew. Maybe Dot had been blackmailing someone. Maybe she had secrets. Maybe she was too trusting with men who thought of her as property, a way to flaunt money or power. Maybe among her jewelry was a ledger, or a name, or something deadly in value. Some said a gangster financier had ties to her, one whose name echoed faintly in the whispers of underworld men. Still, months passed. The files went cold. Papers piled up. Investigators changed. Detectives moved on. No trial, no indictment, no closure. To the public, Dot King became a legend, a cautionary tale, a tragic symbol of the Jazz Age's underbelly. Her name resurfaced in crime novels, in pulp fiction, in stage and screen adaptations. Her story inspired works like The Canary Murder Case, 1927, a novel that captured the glamour and menace of her world. Yet at the center of all that glamour, all that myth, was a corpse on a bed, a young woman who once dreamed under city lights, suffocated under its shadow. No one ever paid for it. No name went down in court. All that remains today are fragments. A portrait of Dot in a newspaper clipping, a few archived police stubs, the yellowed pages of old tabloid scandal sheets. Her brownstone on 57th Street, if it still stands, is anonymous now, perhaps painted over, filled with strangers. The building remembers nothing. Not her name, not her glitter, not the blood long washed away by cleaners and time. Some believe the murder was related to a purge of kept women, those living on the largesse of rich men, vulnerable and exposed. So-called beauty parasites, as some harsh headlines called them, easy prey for thieves, blackmailers, and killers. There were whispers that Dot wasn't the only one. Others died around that time, women with similar stories, similar lifestyles, similar fates. Some vanished. Some turned up dead, in cheap hotel rooms or on rooftops or in abandoned lots. None of those cases were solved either. In a city built on illusions, Dot was one illusion too many. If you walk past what might be her old address today, you'll see no plaque. No flicker of memory. Just brick and concrete, traffic and neon. The apartment she died in is no more than a story told in whispers, a scandal headline in faded ink, a cautionary ghost in a city that forgot quickly. But for a moment, one morning in March 1923, New York stopped. It looked at a girl named Dot King, and it realized how quickly glamour could be stripped away, how quickly a life could be choreographed into a crime scene, how easy it was for the beautiful to be broken. Her murder remains unsolved. No killer, no case closed, no justice. Just the echo of her name, Dot King, the Broadway butterfly fluttering across time, a reminder that sometimes the lights shine for too few, and the darkness waits for longer than anyone ever knows.